right now. So a little bit of introduction. My name is Marcus DeWitt. I'm the founder of a group, Blue Ivy Coaching. And Blue Ivy, we are a college counseling company. I'm based in Miami. Rodrigo is our manager in Houston. Lupita is our family partner. We have an academic leadership team, and we help over 500 families a year with their college admissions processes. Our mission is to help students maximize their full potential. So we want to help students explore and define what their path is and be strategic in their decision making. We have a team of 60 full-time coaches, all graduates of top schools, and we've helped over 5,000 students over the last years through their processes. We've had students be accepted into all of the world's best schools, such as Ivy League schools, UT and A&M, as well as schools in Europe and internationally. And so I'm originally from the States, pero también hablo español, and I think we have just a very kind of international approach to how we help students. And so how do we begin this process? So I like to say how the roadmap to college, it's a 4-year process. It's a 4-year program. So obviously what you should be doing over the summer depends a lot on whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. So let's break that down. When you are coming in the summer before your freshman year, your focus should be on developing skill set, habits, beginning to discover your interests, beginning to explore, so that you can come in and hit the ground running your freshman year of high school. As you move into 10th grade, you should be using that summer to really get focus and really establish your foundation on what your game plan should be. As you move then into the summer before your junior year, that's really where we're focused on challenging ourselves and having impressive achievements. We should be doing something very strategic the summer before junior year. And then right before your senior year, that's just about finishing strong, really capitalizing on your activities as we're about to apply. So again, the suggestions that I'm going to give tonight really depend if we are rising 9th graders or if we are rising seniors. There's very different moments of this process. So please keep that in mind. So we like to begin this process with 3 key questions. The first question is what to study. The second question is where to apply. And the third question is what you have to do in order to get in. So not every student should be doing the same thing. I get some questions that are like, well, should my student work over the summer? Well, depends. If we're going to apply to aerospace engineering, then maybe what's better on your resume is to do an internship with a professor. If we want to study business or marketing, then maybe working is great. So at the end of the day, we can't just give formulaic suggestions. We have to understand each student's profile, and based on that, give personalized recommendations. So that's why the first thing we do is help students understand their focus. Our perspective here is you have to help students understand, or we help students understand, that the degrees of the future are not the same degrees that maybe parents' generation have studied. So as everybody is seeing, there's an AI revolution, a 4th industrial revolution. Students should be focused on new degrees, innovative degrees, not the same degrees that have been studied in the past. So the first thing we want to do is help students understand this revolution in the labor market, these disruptions and transformations, so that they can be thinking critically and choosing intentionally what career path, so that it's aligned with the tailwinds to the future, and then they can have a more better opportunity in terms of developing a professional career. In addition, we help students understand not just the job market, but we help them understand their interests, their skill set. We do aptitude testing, and we do coaching to help students explore different majors. So the objective is to get to this Japanese concept of ikigai, which is your sense of being. It's what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. So what should you do over the summer? Well, it really depends on what our focus is, on what our purpose is. A student going to computer science should be doing an activity that's very different than a student going to philosophy, right? And so the first thing we need to do with each student is put together a game plan. Now, it's also very different. A summer strategy or an activity strategy be focused on highly selective liberal arts colleges than what Texas A&M and UT Austin would look for. Similar, what our strategy would be if we're looking for universities abroad. It's common, it's even more so common every year to look at universities in Spain and the UK, and that's also a different process. So we like to help students as well develop a sense of fit. We want to go to a big school or a small school. What is the campus culture? And we often will use the summers to help students kind of build their list. Summer is also a great time because they're on vacation to visit campuses. So I always get this question, should we visit a campus in summer even if there's no classes? You can visit schools over the summer. You can take a tour. Most colleges have summer sessions, so you can still visit a class. And even if there's fewer students, if you already know what you want to study, you can reach out to professors and schedule coffee chats to meet with individual professors. So that part of building your list, summers are an important opportunity to go visit and see some schools. Well, if you're in freshman, just go see the schools around town, go to UT and A&M. If you're a rising junior or senior, maybe this is the opportunity where we do that East Coast trip, or we go and we see schools up in Chicago. We need to organize maybe a family vacation around seeing some of these schools, because it takes time to get out there and you want to spend 2-3 hours on each campus. So summers is a great time to do some campus visits. Finally, we want to speak about application strategy. So I mentioned my background is I worked in the admissions office at Yale. My background is that I worked in the admissions before starting Blue Ivy Coaching, the company. And so what I'm going to share with you all is some frameworks that admissions officers use when they're evaluating applications. So this is really the list of priorities in order. This is what admissions officers most care about when they're evaluating applications. So yes, we care about the GPA, we care about the SAT, you need those to get into college, but then we're looking at the essays, the activities, your recommendation letters, and the interview. So this is the list of priorities of what's important as part of an application. Now, to compete in very selective admissions processes, take a school like UT Austin, where if you're not in the top 5%, the acceptance rate is 6%. What are they looking for when Yale has a 3% acceptance rate or Northeastern has a 5% acceptance rate? What we're looking for in applications is that intellectual curiosity, that way of thinking critically about the world, taking concern for others, as well as strong extracurricular recognition. So I'm giving you all some frameworks initially so that we can understand why the activities I'm suggesting that we take advantage for this upcoming summer are going to be useful in the grand scheme. It's not just about having kids running around and being busy and having something to do so they're not on their phones at home all day. It's about making sure we take advantage of the time to have a strategic and successful application. Okay? So the first thing I'd like to mention here is that this is how colleges evaluate, another framework colleges use to evaluate the strength of a student's extracurricular profile. And as you can see here, there's tier 4, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, and it's based on the level of responsibility, accomplishment, and achievement that students have in their activities, right? So it goes from participating and just showing up and participating to having some ownership and responsibility, to really being the chief responsible person for a large-scale event, to then competing at a local, regional, even international level, right? So we want students to not just do things, but to have responsibility, leadership, and impact, okay? So with this framework, I'm going to share with you all some suggestions and some examples of what other students have done, okay? And the point here as well, connecting to the summer, is when we start writing our college essays, here are some real examples of what the schools are asking us for in the application. So straight up, Stanford says, what have you done the last couple summers? Stanford wants to know what we've done with our time, and we've got to let them know. 500 words, this is what we've done over summer. Now, not every school is going to ask you explicitly, what have you done over the summer? Let's look at Columbia's essay prompt. texts, resources, and outlets that have contributed to your intellectual development outside of academic courses, including books, journals, websites, podcasts, essays, plays, presentations, videos, museums. Okay, so they want to see your intellectual life. Well, listen, the truth is that most students from August to May are in clubs, activities, sports, APs, SAT. In what moment are you going to sit down and read classic Russian literature or go to a museum? That's not easy to do. So summers is our opportunity to really help students develop that intellectual curiosity. So this is coming back to what I just talked to you guys about, intellectual curiosity and critical thinking. So Columbia wants to know everything we're reading, watching, and listening to. Okay, well, summer is a great opportunity to develop that. Interesting now, let's look at UMich. So University of Michigan, when you apply to business, they say choose a current event or issue in your community and discuss the business implications. Again, interesting. When we're in the middle of the school year and we've got exams and clubs and activities and sports, it's hard to have this kind of reflection. But by getting involved and doing a passion project or getting involved in community service, we use the summers to have that engagement with community that then gives us material to work on essays. And I could go on and on and on and on. UT asks about leadership, et cetera, about how the summer is a golden opportunity to be planning something that is useful for the essays. So what are some examples of that? First, internships. Now, internships are hard to secure if your student is in high school. They typically have to be arranged through a family friend, asking a favor. Now, we can do internships as a tier 4. You go for a week and you do a job shadow. You observe meetings. You kind of walk around and see what a company looks like. Great. Or you can use your internship as a way of exploring an industry, and then you can write an article in a local magazine or journal about that industry, and then you get some recognition. So it's not just as a passive activity, but you use your internship as a platform for an additional project. Okay, so it's not just about doing the thing, it's how we're thinking about that thing. Same with the pre-college programs. You can spend $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 and go to one of the colleges and do a summer program. It is going to be helpful for exploring your major. It's going to be helpful for understanding what to study. Your kid's going to be able to live on their own and get a stronger sense of independence. But going to a pre-college program is a tier 4. We're participating in the pre-college program. Okay. So why do I like pre-college programs? I had a student that went to a pre-college program last summer. He learned about finance, business, economics, and then he came back home and he organized some workshops in a low-income community about entrepreneurship, about personal finance. So he used the pre-college as a platform to do something else. So he turned it into a tier 1, a tier 4, in that case, into a tier 2. Okay. What else? Academic competitions. So the John Locke Institute is a great essay competition. Their essay competition is in the month of June, next month. So maybe working on a 500-word essay talking about the role of tariffs is not something that you can do during the school year. But if you can have 2 or 3 days during the month of June to compete in Oxford and Princeton's essay competition, then that's great, right? So there's a lot of academic competitions that students can do during the summer that might be more difficult to do during the school year. And this is at that highest level of tier 1, which is national, international competitions, right? In the same way that a tennis player needs to be competing in tournaments to show that you want to compete, you want to play tennis at Stanford, well, you've got to compete in these tournaments. You want to study economics at Stanford, the same thing. You've got to be competing in the high school Wharton investment competition. Okay. So the academic competitions as well, these are time consuming and you got to prepare. Great activity to do in the summer. They cost like $50 to participate. Great activity for kids to develop that curiosity. around what they want to study. Research internships. So I had a student last year, Memorial High School. He contacted a political science professor at Rice and went to his office twice a week and helped him with a political research project. Great project. If you are applying to a STEM major, it's now almost expected for you to be doing scientific research in high school, right? So writing professors at U of H, Rice, even Lone Star, can I help you with any kind of research project? This is a free activity that you can also do, and you can go and you can get support and you get that academic research experience. Passion projects. I have lots of students who really kind of develop their interests and develop a project and get others involved, whether that's doing community service. I have a student here on the right-hand side who started a rocketry club and was entering rocket competitions. So summer is a great opportunity as well. This takes time. So this is a great opportunity for a student to execute. So I'm working right now personally with a student. She wants to study sports management, and she's organizing a week-long summer camp, summer sports camp. And we're doing that over the summer. So this is that's hard for her to do in the school year because she's in the full IB and the SAT, but we're able to execute on a summer camp for sports over summer. So that's really great with the passion projects. Entrepreneurship, starting a business. So there's these pitch competitions. I had a student enter into the Blue Ocean pitch competition where they're pitching their idea for their business, or you could get together with some friends and actually start a real business. You can start to get some clients and some revenue and learn about business, which again will help you as you're doing these essays for applications. Yet again, we have another example. This is a great platform I like to recommend called The Forage. The Forage, you do virtual job shadows, and they have things, here we have a Citibank one on investment banking. These are online. They're free. It's a way for a student to explore their career. I think it's an amazing resource. Well, we say, well, what about Marcus? I thought that these were tier 4 activities. Yes, you're just going to do a job shadow online, but it's going to help you do a really smart essay. If you're going to tell, Columbia University, this is why I want to study financial engineering, because I took a 6-hour program through Citibank and learned about investment banking program. And you connect what you learned in your job shadow to specific coursework that's offered in the financial engineering major at Columbia. That's very impressive. That's very impressive to be able to do that, right? So here's another great resource. Again, there's no applications. You just go onto the platform. I've had students do 2 or 3 over the summer, and we use that as material to write our essays. So this is another great activity that can be done over the summer. I just got this one. I'm really happy. I just got this photo. The student sent it to me 2 hours ago. She's applying to entrepreneurship this fall, and she loves baking. She has a little baking entrepreneurship. And so we just worked on a children's book, and she just got her children's book published and printed. So she's super excited, but yeah, she's been working for the last few months on the text and the pictures. And so I love children's book. It's something that a few students are starting to do. I think it's a great activity to say that you publish a book. I think it's wonderful. Similar to the Forage, another great platform is Coursera. Coursera, you can take courses at Harvard, Stanford, MIT. So I was just in a session earlier today, and the student is interested in looking at entrepreneurship, innovation, engineering management. And we found this course through the University of Maryland that's focused on developing new products. It's like product innovation. And so you can take a free online course from the world's best universities and get a certificate on innovation. And so for her to understand if that is the major that we're going to apply to, it's a great summer activity. And then it's also, they give you a certificate that you can include as part of your application. Okay. So there's tons of opportunities out here, from getting out there and starting a business, to doing community service and a passion project, to learning about your field of interest through online platforms like Coursera and The Forage. But as you can see, everything depends on what your focus is. So that's why I started from the beginning with that roadmap to college. What major are we applying to? We need to be trying and discovering and exploring a bunch of different options to then find our focus so that we can develop a strategy based on that focus. Okay. Now, Obviously, as well, it's not just about the extracurriculars, but we saw that the test part of the application is really important. So there's two tests. There's the SAT and the ACT. Here you can kind of see a comparison between the SAT and the ACT. As you can see, they're really just technical differences. They're very similar exams. They're both about 2 hours. They both cover English, reading, and math. There's just some technical differences. The ACT is now switching from a paper-based test to a computer-based test. We prefer to recommend at this moment the SAT because the ACT is a new test, and because it's a new test, there aren't that many materials available. But as well, these tests typically take 3 to 6 months to prepare and about 200 hours of study. So honestly, what is the number one best thing to do with your time over summer? Prepare for the tests. Okay, so whether that's SAT or ACT, summer's a great time to do a diagnostic and jump ahead. And so we do a diagnostic and we get a really kind of data-driven approach of where we're starting well, how we're doing in each section. We break it down between Algebra 1, geometry. We look at reading comprehension versus vocabulary. So the summer is a great opportunity to really understand this commitment. I see students really struggle to do test prep when they've got a bunch of APs and activities going on. So at the end of the day, all we're talking about here with the summer is how do we take advantage of their time? How do we use our time? How do we invest our time to get the best return on investment for the summer? So I think summers are very precious. Is like, I know that kids want to relax after having a very busy year, but summers we have to be really intentional with our time because it's this opportunity to do all of this. And I just wanted to note here, why is the SAT coming back? Why did UT Austin go back to requiring? So this is new information that recently came out, and I think it's super interesting, kind of scary. So I want everybody to look at this chart. You don't have to say it out loud, but look at the axis at the bottom and look what year you graduated from high school and see what is the percentage of students that year that had an A average. Okay, so my parents, they graduated, they're born in 1956. They graduated from high school in 1974. So me growing up, my parents, 1/3 of students were getting straight A's. I feel like that makes sense. Your top third of students have all A's. Then your middle third of students get A's and B's, and your bottom third of students get B's and C's. I feel like that's how the system has been traditionally. It's probably how it should be. Okay, now let's look at where we are now. 86%. 86% of students. So this has happened for a number of reasons. But while grades have been creeping up every year, and then just over the pandemic jumped up to 86, average scores are coming down. So the average ACT score during the same time period has dropped. And this is according to all the data, whether that's school assessments, national assessments, Common Core, everything, results are dropping while grades are going up. There's a mismatch between GPA and test scores and assessments, right? So that is why colleges are coming back to requiring these tests. And that is also why we're seeing students are requiring more and more time to prepare for these tests. Now, remember, the SAT is not just to get accepted, it's also for scholarships. The better we do on the test, the better scholarship we also get, okay? So coming back to what should we do over the summer? We've got a bunch of different ideas here to do career exploration. We've got different ideas here for extracurricular activities. And finally, we need to put a lot of emphasis on using the summer to prepare for these tests. The final thing here to consider is if you are a rising senior, in other words, if this is the summer before your senior year, we need to be focusing the summer on essay writing. So this is kind of our timeline. The summer, we need to be choosing our main topic for the essay. We need to be spending the month of June and a little bit of July working on that main essay. We need to be writing multiple drafts, finding the topic and writing multiple drafts. If we can, we need to schedule a couple of visits, especially to schools where we might be doing an early decision. We need to see if we have to do a last minute preparation for the August SAT. We need to do one of these activities, whether it's a job or any of those other activities also over the month of July. And starting August, that is where we begin to open our common application in the different portals and begin writing those supplemental essays through December, right? So the summer before senior year, it is go time with applications. We are working on those essays from May and June before our final year of high school. Okay, so a lot of these activities, they're great to do as well, but they're really important to do if you are in the summer before 10th and 11th grade, so you can hit the ground running on your essays in that final summer. So we have to take advantage and be really intentional. Okay, so just going to give you guys an example of how I've had a student kind of take advantage of summers kind of throughout their high school career. So there's a student that we worked with a couple years ago. He was really interested in debate. He went to a couple of debate camps in 9th and 10th grade. Then he started taking our coaching and he realized he was less interested in debate and political science and started shifting over to finance and economics, right? So we did a summer program on cryptocurrency that helped him then in the school year start a finance club. The summer before his 12th grade, he started a podcast on the stock market. That's intellectual curiosity. And then we worked on his essays before senior year, submitted the applications. And as you can see, he did great. He got into several great schools. He also got rejected from a lot of schools, which is part of this process as well, right? So as you can see, he doesn't have 50 million activities. He's got several very nice, very intentional activities, taking advantage of the summer, aligned with his profile and his interests. Okay, so how do we help students as part of our program? Well, it's everything that we just described. We like to take students on from the beginning of high school and work with them step by step as they're planning out that roadmap to college. So what are we doing on the summer? Should we be doing one of these online job shadows or an internship? Should they be starting a business or a community service project? Doing that career exploration, especially as we move into 11th grade. We help students determine what is the right major for their profile. We help them identify and prepare for the academic competitions. We also do SAT prep. So we have SAT prep courses. We help students really kind of push them to be leaders and to have impact. And then finally, as we move in the spring and summer before 12th grade, we do weekly sessions with our students to help them develop their essays and apply to college. And so the reason you get into college, as I mentioned, the reason you get scholarships is having a great story. It's not just having a GPA. It's not just having the SAT. You need both of those. But at the end of the day, you get into college because you have a great story. You have great essays that you can present to the colleges. Okay, so we've had a great success with these applications, with our students getting a 2, 3, 4x advantage over the general applicant pool as part of their applications. Okay, so thanks everybody for coming out. I know it's a school night. Hopefully this content was useful to you. I wanted to give you a bunch of ideas, a bunch of actions and insights, so that as we're doing last minute summer preparations, hopefully you can take away some ideas here, have conversations with your kids, and we can get to work. So I'm leaving you guys here, final slide here with a QR code. What we like to do is we like to sit down with every student, every family individually. We like to spend, an hour yesterday, a full hour and a half initial consultation. The idea is to really put together a game plan that is personalized for each student and for each family. As I mentioned from the beginning, what one student does is going to be different from another student. Okay, so this is a very individual and personalized process. So feel free to scan the code here, get in touch. We'd love to meet you, and we'd love to kind of make some personalized summer suggestions based on each student's context. So thanks so much for coming. If anybody has any questions, feel free to turn on your microphone or put a question in the chat. We've got a couple minutes here in case if anybody has any questions. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Hopefully it was useful. Thank you, Lupita. Thank you, Rodrigo. And we'll be in touch. Everybody have a great night.